The morning sun barely crested the Wyoming hills when Emily Harper muttered, "I told them about the damn goat." She stood in her overgrown pasture, hands on hips, watching 3 uniformed officers scatter like spooked cattle. Her billy goat, Liberty, was a bleeding tornado of fury, chasing them across the field. One officer dropped his taser in the dirt. Another tripped over an irrigation pipe, cursing. The third, limping, clutched his radio, stammering about hostile livestock. Emily sipped her coffee from a chipped mug that read World's okayest judge and wondered if this was technically contempt of court. It wasn't every day the local police barged onto a judge's land without a warrant, only to get schooled by a goat named after the very principle they just stomped all over. 2 days earlier, Emily had dreamed of peace. She'd packed a duffel bag, left the courtroom drama behind, and driven cross-country to the quiet ranch her father once ran like a soft-spoken king. The gavel had grown too heavy, the lawyers too shrill. She craved fences, fresh air, and the kind of silence only Wyoming could offer. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. The call came at dawn, not to her, but to some anonymous tipster. The officers, twitchy and badge-heavy, strutted past her gate like they were raiding a drug cartel, not a half-fixed ranch owned by a woman in flannel pajamas and muddy boots. "Ma'am," the youngest one started, voice shaky, "we got a tip about illegal substances here." Emily stared, her shirt misbuttoned, her dog Daisy VYing just peed on the porch. Liberty was chewing an old hubcap nearby. Did this tip mention a meth lab run by a 52-year-old with a bad knee and a lemon tree named George? She deadpanned. They didn't laugh. She didn't stop them. Let them dig their own grave, she thought, trailing them with her coffee, mentally tallying their screw-ups. No warrant, no probable cause, and if Liberty got pissy, maybe animal cruelty. They poked around her barn, rifled through her tool shed, and jumped at a rusted still that hadn't worked since the 80s. Then Liberty, who'd been munching hay like a bored teenager, decided this was her turf and charged. The youngest officer yelped. The oldest swore. The middle one panic-fired his taser into a stack of fertilizer bags. Emily waited until they regrouped, sweaty and humiliated, before strolling over. "You boys ever heard of a warrant?" she asked, her voice calm but sharp enough to cut glass. Daisy barked in solidarity. "No. How about Judge Emily Harper? As in district judge. As in the one who re-VYUs your department's misconduct hearings." Their faces collapsed defiant, then confused, then terrified in 3 seconds flat. One opened his mouth, then shut it. Another stepped forward, then back. "Ma'am, we don't ma'am me," she snapped. "You trespassed. You broke protocol. Unless you've got a warrant stuffed in your sock, we're about to have a real expensive chat with internal affairs." Liberty bleated behind her like a courtroom gavel. Emily let the silence linger, the kind she'd perfected on the bench, where fools heard their own stupidity echo. The oldest officer finally pulled the others aside. They whispered like kids caught cheating on a math test. 10 minutes later, they mumbled apologies as half-baked as their investigation and scurried off. Emily stood in her driveway, dust settling like smoke after a bar fight, Daisy's tail wagging. "So much for retirement," she muttered. Later, on her porch, she stared at the hills her father once ruled. This wasn't random. Someone had targeted her, expecting a pushover, not a judge who'd once sent a senator to jail for fraud. Her phone buzzed a text from her old clerk. "Sarah, retirement boring yet? Were you already locking people up?" Emily didn't reply. She just said to the empty air, "If they think I'll roll over, they've never read my rulings." Inside, a manila folder on her father's old desk caught her eye. She hadn't touched his things since inheriting the ranch. Soon, she'd dig in, but for now, she watched the road, wondering who was watching her. Bellwood had a memory like a dive bar bartender gruff, selective, and always VYing the truth that suited the highest bidder. Emily had grown up watching her father balance neighborly charm with a quiet edge, knowing too many secrets. Bellwood smiled at church, haggled at the market, and schemed in the shadows. Someone had forgotten Emily Harper didn't ignore broken rules, she enforced them. 2 days later, she stood in Bellwood's town hall, face to face with Sheriff Tom Bradley. He looked like a campaign poster, tall, silver-haired, uniform creased like armor. He didn't stand to greet her, just leaned back like he owned the room. "Judge Harper," he drawled, "you've stirred up a mess." Emily didn't smile. She set a folder on his desk with a deliberate thud body cam transcripts, timestamps, and a list of violations from the trespass. The audio had caught one officer muttering, "This old lady better not be trouble." Bradley didn't open the folder, just stared, his eyes glinting with something cold. "You think you're the first judge to roll through Bellwood?" he asked. "They all learn how things work here." Emily leaned forward, voice low. "Then it's time they unlearned." He chuckled, but it was hollow. "People like calm, Judge. They don't like drama or audits. They like fences mended, not burned." And yet, Emily shot back, "Your men stormed my land like it was a drug bust. No warrant, no cause. One of them tossed my fertilizer. Unless Bellwood's gone rogue, you'd better start caring about the law." His smile twitched. "We'll handle internally." She tapped the folder. "No, you won't. I've notified the state's judicial oversight. Unless I see discipline and transparency, I'll file a federal complaint. Oh, and Tom." She paused at the door. "Next time you want to intimidate me, don't send the junior varsity." Back at the ranch, Sarah was on the porch swing, sipping something that wasn't tea. "Heard your place is the new crime hotspot," she teased. "Had a drug lab till the goat unionized," Emily replied, dropping her bag. Sarah handed her a binder, Bellwood's Dirty Laundry. Dismissed complaints, unlogged seizures, intimidation mostly tied to land disputes. Farmers, ranchers, even a beekeeper who VYOLAT codes after refusing to sell his land. "This ain't random," Emily muttered. "Nope," Sarah said. "That tip was just the start of something uglier." That night, Emily found her father's leather notebook. Scribbled dates, names, including Bradley's. One entry: Tom and Councilman Holt met behind Town Hall. 4th time this month. Always cash. Her father hadn't been watching. The next morning, a drone's buzz woke her. She tracked it to a hidden receiver buried in leaves. Someone was spying, maybe planting dirt. She drove to town, parked across from the council building, and watched Councilman Holt take an envelope from a stranger. She snapped a photo, heart racing. Bellwood's cracks were showing. Then, at the diner, she saw him, Michael Reed, her ex-husband, the last person she wanted near her. He was Bellwood PD's new lawyer, grinning like their divorce never happened. "Guess we're back where we started," he said. Emily walked past, ordered her coffee, and sat at the counter, but her stomach churned. This wasn't about a bad tip anymore. Someone was pulling strings, and they'd brought in a snake. The town turned fast. The grocery clerk squashed her bread. The feed store lady dodged her eyes. At the potluck, someone dropped a plastic gavel in her salad. Sheriff Bradley went public, all badge and crocodile tears, decrying vendettas against honest officers. No names, but Bellwood's gossip mill pinned Emily as the city's slicker, tearing down good men. Sarah, hunched over her laptop, called it a martyr play. "He's making you the VY lane. Bellwood loves a bad guy." Emily sipped her coffee. "Then I'll give them one." She hired a PI, filed state complaints, and demanded records. Most were lost, but she kept pushing. Then came the flash drive unmarked, no return address. The VY Deo was grainy but damning. Bradley and Holt in a backroom deal. Cash exchanged, talk of zoning, and the judge. Bradley's voice: "She's alone out there. One wrong step, we take care of it." Emily's blood ran cold. This was a setup. 3 nights later, a clatter woke her. Shotgun in hand unloaded, but Con V. Wine Cinch caught 2 figures near her shed. Floodlights blazed, and they bolted, Leah VYing gasoline fumes and a bag of white powder. Sloppy. Obvious. The next morning, Bradley's team arrived with a warrant. Emily, in jeans and a bathrobe, watched them find the drugs, feigning shock. Michael showed up, smug as ever. She was arrested, fingerprinted, photographed. Her call went to Sarah. "Ready to make this a circus?" Sarah laughed. "Flyers are printed." In her cell, Emily planned. She dictated motions, sent encrypted messages to a federal judge she'd clerked for. A preliminary re-VYEW of Bellwood PD was launched. Then the youngest officer, the one who'd tossed her fertilizer, cracked. "I didn't know they'd frame you," he whispered. "I saw Bradley plant the bag." Emily leaned in. "Then don't stay quiet." In court, Emily sat in orange, hair pulled back, calm as a storm's eye. Michael opened with his usual flair, but she cut in, "I'll represent myself." The room buzzed. "Highly irregular," Michael stammered. "So's planting EVY Denke," Emily said to the judge. "But here we are." She laid it bare: trespass, the VY Deo, the land grabs, the kickbacks. Sarah testified. The officer confessed. Drone logs, receipts, the flash drive VY Deo played to a stunned courtroom. Bradley's face drained of color. Federal agents in the back row stood, and by the end, Bradley and Holt were in cuffs. 3 council members followed, named in zoning scams and obstruction. Back at the ranch, the air felt lighter. Sarah sprawled in the Lee VY-ing room. Pastries everywhere, VY Tory tunes blaring. Daisy napped by the door. "Town wants you back on the bench," Sarah said. "They can want," Emily replied, pouring wine. "How about a goat to feed?" Liberty, now a local legend, drew kids for photos and memes calling him Bellwood's true sheriff. Emily didn't mind. She'd rather share her win with a goat than most people. She led a judicial oversight committee, insisting on community forums to teach CIVYC rights. The first night, town hall overflowed. Skeptics, farmers, even cops showed up, hungry for trust. Emily spoke plain. "I'm not your hero. I'm here to remind you no one's above the law, especially the ones in badges or suits." It landed hard. The young officer, the one who'd flipped, thanked her quietly. Change, she realized, started in whispers, not roars. Neighbors came by for a bonfire. Pie, guitars, even Holt's old assistant with a 6-pack and apologies. The stars shone, and Emily, wrapped in a quilt, looked at her father's land, finally at peace. Liberty bleated from a barn. "No more pie," she laughed. By morning, a sign stood at her gate. "Welcome to Liberty Ranch." No warrant, no entry. Emily left it there. She didn't need a bench to wield power, just the law, her land, and a town learning to hold its leaders accountable. If they forgot, she'd be watching just like her father. So what do you think? Was Emily a hero for exposing Bellwood's rot? Or did she go too far, tearing down a town's trust to prove a point? Should she have stayed quiet to keep the peace? Or was her fight the only way to save Liberty Ranch? And what about that young officer, coward, or courage in the end? Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button if you're Team Liberty, and subscribe for more stories that'll keep you guessing.